If you can believe it, when I first started at the brand, it was fundamentally bankrupt.
Don't let anyone steal your wallet.
You're going to have a lot of people coming at you, trying to hire them.
This is a mistake that is made all too frequently. It can cost you many, many millions of dollars and even billions of dollars downstream.
Welcome back to the Business Ballers podcast. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Mark.
And today we have a really important episode. We're going to go through some things that we wish we would have known we started out on our entrepreneurial journeys. And then we're going to cover the one big mistake that we see nearly every entrepreneur make that costs them a lot of money in the end.
This one's a little bit personal for me, but I have lost a lot of time and money in my lack of organizational skills. This has plagued me since the start, and it's something that I, wish that if I could rewind time, I would have spent more energy on my organizational skills.
Let's hear more about that. So what do you mean by organizational skills?
So when I started out, and even now, I'm very anxious to get to ringing a cash register and making money. I came from a background where I didn't have money, and I personally believe, if you don't have cash flow in a business, you don't really have a business. So I always focused initially on generating cash. But the mistake is that I didn't organize the organization or the tasks within it early on. And what happens is, as the business begins to scale and you are doing well, then you're just overcome with this lack of organization.
It's interesting because I think you don't really learn it in school. So people, even if you do go to college and you graduate, that's not, when I went, a core skill they taught you. I know my first job, I intentionally went to that job because I knew I was going to learn all the project management, the structure. You were thrown in front of CEOs in your early 20s. And that foundation is something I still look back on as really valuable today.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's part of my issue, is that I never actually worked for anyone. I never had a job, that I didn't start the company. So that's been one issue. And again, I didn't learn it in school, as you mentioned. I took computer science and business courses, but we didn't cover, managing people, organizational skills, whatever. That wasn't part of it.
Well, I don't think that you're alone. I've worked, as you know, with a lot of founders, and especially creative founders. This is very common. Yes, creative. You definitely are. But I remember one founder in particular that I was working with. One of the biggest things that I didn't know it going in that I was helping him with was just exactly what you said. It was creating that organizational process and structure within his company. Things like how to run meetings, how to interview people, how to even put together simple project plans or priorities so the team all knew what path we were on. And I can't tell you, just working with him to develop some of that and put that and implement it, what an impact that had on the business right away.
Yeah, it makes a vast difference when you start out organized, and then the scaling really can flow really, really nicely. And I think with the Business Ballers course, we really condensed what would be a relatively complex subject into very actionable items, 3 tools to use, a very regimented plan for the entrepreneur to utilize to get organized, stay organized, and be able to really advance the company that way.
Yeah, we have a specific module just about project management. And I know when I hear project management or even talk to other founders or teams about it, everybody's like, stay back.
Right.
I don't want all that corporate BS in my company. But I'm telling you, we've seen it all. I know I've personally been through the best and the worst of project management. And our module really distills it for you. And it's for a new business and for entrepreneurs. And then throughout the course, every module, every topic we touch on, whether it's operations, marketing, how to build a calendar, we touch on those key light touch things that you need in every part of your business to be able to be successful. And as you said, go from startup to scale.
Yeah, absolutely. When you said that, I thought too of the CEO playbook that we put together, literally telling you, okay, this is what you do Monday. This is what, so people have a very clear understanding and notion of what's got to be accomplished in their organization on a daily, weekly, monthly, et cetera basis.
Let's go to our next one. This is one which is a big one that I've seen time and time again, which is people doing too much, especially too early on.
Yeah, I lived that one too. So when I think back for me, the most critical example of that was at Take Two. So at Take Two, when we were creating video games, obviously, and in the early days, we had very few projects going. We had limited staff. I think maybe we had 23, 24 people, few projects, and we were doing really well with those few projects. Then we tried to begin to utilize our resources to get more and more product with really not adding that many people. And that really created a dilution in quality and it really stressed our resources as well.
So if you think back, what made you want to do that versus just creating the one game?
I mean, honestly, it was a rookie mistake that Ryan and I made. It was like, okay, we thought if we had more product, that would be more revenue. But as it turned out, the more product meant less revenue because the quality plummeted. Ultimately, the company goes to Grand Theft Auto and these amazing properties, right, that really drive the business still. But that focus is less is more. Few games takes years even to produce, right? Obviously, so.
I think it's definitely true that the great brands out there are the ones that stay focused
Yeah.
and build off of that, especially that key product focus. I know for me, an example that really stands out is way back when I was at Converse. If you can believe it, when I first started at the brand, it was fundamentally bankrupt. And so we had to rebuild the whole thing. But we started out that by saying, let's just make all the shoes that Converse was ever making and repeat the same mistakes. The puffy white shoe, the backyard barbecue shoe, the basketball, the Chuck, and it was getting us nowhere. But we quickly pivoted and said, hey, the way we're going to build the brand equity back is through the Chuck Taylor. And that's what we doubled down on. We got that back with the kids and known for it. And then it took off from there. And ultimately, Nike saw that and bought the brand.
Yeah, it makes sense. Less is more. And we keep talking about that in the class. Literally, every module, we're trying to focus the early entrepreneur, the early founder into doing less things, but doing them really, really effectively and well.
Yeah, I think one of the modules that really stands out on that is our e-commerce module. So in that, we show you everything from how to focus in on an amazing product page, how to merchandise your site, how to set up your operations, and especially your marketing, which is a big one, how to advertise and focus on the right things and the right messages and content so you can build that product.
And I think also in the e-commerce section, even when you talk about a product, like there's so many components to actually bringing a product to life in a really profound way that people want to buy it and are excited about the energy that you've got into that product. So that means the copy, the pictures, and we cover all of that. So you do it very, very well the first time. You don't end up like just wasting energy and time for less result.
Yeah, I think we can safely say there's a lot of great examples of other brands out there too. Whether you look at Amazon, which started in books, they've clearly been at it a long time, so they've expanded from there. Apple as well, that started specifically in the computers that they built, and now they've grown into the phones, accessories, and beyond.
Yeah.
Examples where that focus and, as you say, narrowing the beam really is your key to success.
Yeah, agreed. And also, if you think about the companies that we covered in the second episode of the podcast, those companies as well do one thing and they do it really well. Spanx comes to mind. I looked recently to see like they never expanded into men's or like got out of their lane. They kept that beam narrow, and of course they're printing money.
Yeah, and as you know, I told you from my experience at Drybar, we were known for and really good at doing the blowouts, the hair blowouts.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of temptation to get into nails, to get into makeup,
Right.
but we had that fortitude to say no, let's stay good at what we're good at. We're still small and we're still growing.
I think it's safe to wrap this one up with a Stephen Covey quote. The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing.
That's a good one. Okay, let's hit on a couple more before we get to our big mistake.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll hit on the next one, which is hiring too soon. It goes a little bit with what we were talking about with organization,
Yeah.
but amplifies off of that, which is in the course, we talk a lot about early on, you really can do a lot yourself. Even if you think you don't have all the skills or all the different disciplines, it's better to figure out and do it versus from day one going and hiring a bunch of people, outside resources, which are going to cost a lot of money and just quickly send you into a spiral on expenses.
Agreed. There are obviously a lot of online tools and resources that can be used. But another thing is like mentors and people around you. You'd be surprised that when you approach people, like even locally where you live, you might find, as I did in the past, that somebody will offer their resources to help you, maybe a financial person to help you set up your books or whatever. So by doing a little bit of networking, you can find ways to get things done for literally zero and not have this person that you had to bring in as a head count and have to pay them every couple weeks.
Yeah, and the other thing to remember too is it sounds great having people to help you, but in order for those people to be effective, you have to manage them and tell them and lead them. And often, like we were talking about earlier, that's a skill that you don't necessarily have out of the gate as a new entrepreneur. So keep that in mind too, that having more resources doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be easier for everything you need to get done.
No, of course, it'll actually it detracts from the performance initially because you have to go and train these early people, so you're not getting done what you did. The other thing that I like about being cautious about hiring is you learn to do things in your business, and that is super critical. Is many entrepreneurs want to do only those things that they gravitate towards, but when you are a founder, you need to understand the complexities of the entire business. Maybe not at a very granular level in each of the segments, but to have a little hands-on knowledge about all of it is always a good thing.
Definitely. And in the operations module, we have a whole section about organization, hitting on all those things. Where can you go find help? What are those things you can do yourself? How do you really navigate through this early on so you don't make, again, that big mistake of hiring too early?
Yeah, we've covered it all. And we even have, interview questions, right? So that you can ask resources that you want to bring into the tent. You can interview them properly and make sure they're going to help your organization.
So do you have another one you want to hit on?
I think one that I see a lot, not one that I've made, but one because people are approaching me for investment, is so many entrepreneurs are trying to raise money. They're not trying to
Right.
have a business first and then raise capital to support and grow that business to reach another milestone. Instead, they're starting out with the goal is I need to raise $1 million or whatever it might be. And I think that's a mistake that people make a lot, and it's a bad one because investors obviously like to see you've got something going and the next dollars are going to push you to this particular place.
Yeah, and that's a big, big one. Mark and I are huge fans of bootstrapping as long as you
Yeah.
can. And that is a big, big part of the course. We have a whole section on and module and lessons about how you can do that too, whether you go get easy grants or ask your family and friends, a lot of other different topics that you can do throughout your business.
Absolutely. There's so many resources and so many ways to get things done nowadays that you don't really need a lot of capital.
Yeah, and even in operations, all the tools that are out there that you can use for free till you get to a certain size. We have sections in almost every module. And then if you get our whole bundle course, we have a free AI bonus module, which we've gone to experts and researched ourselves. what are just those handful of 5 tools you need
Yeah.
that you can get a really long ways without having to spend little or no money.
Yeah, we cut through all of the noise for you and distilled it to 5 tools that you can use that are really going to be effective in your business.
Yeah, another one I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel like they have to go get a lot of money to do is marketing. And that's another big section of our bootstrapping module too is how can you run your marketing very cost effectively too and build on that. And again, like you said, you don't need a ton of money to start to be able to do it.
Yeah.
You'll wait until you're ready, as you said, to go raise the capital to hit those milestones you're trying to get to.
Yeah, because the other thing is that I feel like most consumers they're buying on emotion anyway, and a lot of times, as we teach in the course, right, that founder's story can be extremely compelling. Why did you create this particular product, right? What pain point are you solving for the customer? And they're drawn into the story, and that can make an effective way to reach them and get sales.
Yeah. So having said that, we recommend again to bootstrap early on. Don't make the mistake Mark's talking about of trying to raise capital too early. But when you are ready, we also have a whole module about that. We are going to prepare you on every single thing you need to know so you will be successful when you get to that point where it makes sense to do it.
Before we jump into the whammy where we see everyone like end up losing millions of dollars ultimately from this mistake, what are some other things that you might have seen?
Another thing worth noting is as a new entrepreneur, and especially when you are founder of your first business, you're going to have a lot of people coming at you trying to hire them, hire their friends, hire this agency, that resource.
Yeah.
Don't listen to it. Instead, take what Mark and I are saying, which is think about that bootstrapping mindset, all those tactics, get the course, focus on that module. We're going to show you how to do it so you don't have to incur all those expenses and make those costly mistakes.
All right, so Sarah's right. Don't let anyone steal your wallet. And we've now arrived at the really big one. This is a mistake that is made all too frequently, and it can cost you many, many millions of dollars and even billions of dollars downstream. And to open up the discussion about it, like, let me ask, how does it feel when you start your business?
Alone.
Exactly. Like suddenly there's nobody around. It's
Nobody.
crickets. Yeah, exactly. You feel afraid even maybe, right? Because this is new territory for you. You've never done it before. You've never had success there. And who wants to fail alone, right?
And if you're coming from another company, or even if you've been in school, you're used to being around people every day. You have a boss, and even if you didn't like them or your peers, they're setting the direction often, and there's that structure there, and you're coming to work 9 to 5, and now you're on your own.
Yeah. And that 9 to 5 job also is delivering you a paycheck, right? Every couple of
That's
weeks.
right.
And that's a level of security. So now that security blanket might be taken away, right? And not only that, but you might be tapping into some of your own personal savings and right to get your business going. And so the mistake is that people oftentimes gravitate towards partners that they bring in to their business.
And when you say partners, you're just talking about what we were saying earlier, hiring people. These are partners that you're giving oftentimes a vested piece of your company and giving that away and diluting yourself.
Exactly. And all too frequently, it's 100 divided by the number of people that start out this venture. So you have three people that start their business and everybody gets a third of the company. And already, if it's your idea, your passion, your dream, you've now given away 2/3 of it, right? And that's ultimately could cost you not just in dollars, but in the way that you want to direct your company as well.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways you can go about it without having to bring in partners.
Yeah, absolutely. Which we cover those in the course. So the course really will drive you toward getting things done without having those partners. But it's also that mindset that's so critical to get yourself in the proper mindset. That's why we have the free money mindset module, because you need to start out with the belief that you will get it done, that you can get it done, and that you don't need to drag along these people. I mean, recently, I have seen it in company where you had 5 founders, but 2 of the founders did everything. And so they had an amazing exit, but they would have had a lot more cash in their bank accounts if had they not brought along, these guys with them.
Well, I have a good story for you that might shock you. So I had partners that I actually was very successful with in an early business, and then I decided to work with them again on a deal.
Uh-huh.
And after I brought all the information, all the work, all the data to enable them to get the deal done, they dropped me the day after it was signed.
Oh my
I
God.
couldn't even believe it.
That would be for me. That might end up in a murderous rage, right? It's like, that's crazy.
Yeah, so you have to really think about partners, not only for all the things we've said in terms of the impact on your control and your equity, but are these people you can really trust and people you want to be
Yeah.
in with for the long term? And do you really know them?
Yeah, because the other thing is, interestingly, say in the example that I gave where you have these 3 founders, right? Well, suddenly 2 of those founders, if you don't have your operating agreement structured properly, those 2 founders can gang up on you and get you out of there.
Right.
So, like, this is an issue. And we talk about this early structure in the operating agreement, how to set up the LLC and everything. So you don't end up with that problem sometime downstream. And it can happen as well when you bring in early investors that can end up not liking you and want you out of your own company.
To reiterate, our advice to you is don't bring on partners too early. There's a lot of tactics you can do. We teach them all in the course where you can avoid this mistake that we see time and time again and really have the confidence that you can do it on your own.
You absolutely can. And we give you the tools and the mindset skills to be able to do it on your own so that you don't have this dilution impact you in your business. As a friend of mine who's a billionaire once told me, the worst ship to start out in is a partnership.
I think we should talk about the elephant in the room on this topic.
Yeah, well, we're partners.
We're partners.
Exactly. Yeah. But we didn't enter into this out of fear or emotion. It's driven by what we can both bring to this equation to make business ballers successful.
Plus, we've worked together a long time before.
That's true.
We have fun working together. We have similar styles, and we knew we could get it done and run and make this business successful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not always a bad decision to have a partner, but that having been said, you need to reflect on, okay, what is that person going to bring into the equation for you? Then how much equity should they receive, right? So it's not necessarily toxic. It's just that it needs to be not driven by fear or emotion, but rather driven in the sensibilities of what you need for your organization. And then how much does that person really deserve? And not only that, which we teach in the course, but make sure that that equity vests for them over time. It's not just handed to them, right? That's a different way to approach it.
Yeah, and not only just what they deserve, I think the big thing is what they contribute.
Yeah.
You and I are 50-50 in business ballers.
Yep.
We have our responsibilities and we contribute those, and therefore that's how we structured this.
Yep.
And we're not just saying this, these are all the things that we've done ourselves that we're teaching in the course and why it works.
And we both put up the same amount of capital. So that's another issue, where you see where one person is putting up more capital than the other person. That early money is oftentimes worth a little bit more pound of flesh because it's more at risk.
Yeah. So again, don't feel alone in this.
Yeah.
We're going to show you all the tools that you can navigate this on your own. If you do decide you need a partner, how to do it the right way.
Yep.
And make sure you set this up so you don't make some of the mistakes that we've seen.
Yeah, exactly. And we cover all of it for you in the structure, in the equity, operating agreement. I mean, Business Ballers is 25 hours of instruction, and it is distilled to exactly what you need as a founder to be successful. And so we covered this topic because it's so costly downstream not to have done it right.
Hopefully you've all not started making any of these mistakes. But even if you have, or if you're on the path, get the Business Ballers course, and we're going to help you get on the right path to be able to avoid these or course correct them going forward.
Yeah, for sure. Again, we got 25 hours of material ranging from this initial structure, finance, e-commerce. Like literally, we have covered everything that needs to be covered. And we've done it in such a way so that it's surgical for you. You don't have to learn a lot of material that you're never going to use. This is coming from our wins. We've had our 9-figure exits, and it's coming also from the mistakes that we've made, some of which we've covered today. Others we didn't cover, right? But they're all boiled down for you in that course.
And it's very practical instruction on how to do it. We hit today on things like project management, how to focus in your product, what you can do so you don't hire too soon, how you make sure you don't go about raising capital too quickly. And probably one of the biggest things we talked about today, how do you bootstrap and bootstrap with confidence? All those different tactics you need to do. So if you're starting out with very little, you can get your business off the ground and get it to the stage of scale without having to make mistakes of raising capital too soon or bringing partners on too early, like we talked about as well.
Okay, so what you want to do is head over to businessballers.com, get the course, and take control of your financial future and life today.